kind of what had happened. There was nobody to really offer me any type of guidance or insight. It was all faith. You know, it was like have faith in the research, have faith in the plant, have faith in everything. Mother Nature, God, whatever you believe in, you know, it's all about faith. So someone told me, you know, if it's God's will for the plant to survive, it will. Fingers crossed, essentially a Hail Mary. The plant survived the summer. It was the hottest summer on record, 109 degrees. And then they bloomed. Now at this point, this is where kind of subject matter experts who we didn't, you know, could never find before started to present themselves and offer advice as to how we could be better, right? Now they went to school for this, they have PhDs, so I'm thinking like, yes, I want to be better, like what do you have for me? And they're like, okay, we'll send us a soil sample and we'll tell you what to do. So we provided them a soil sample and they said do X, Y, and Z and it'll be amazing. So we did that. A couple weeks later, all of a sudden our plants started getting damaged, we started seeing dying plants, and I started to panic, right? Because it couldn't possibly be them. Obviously something I did. Just like when you go to Lowe's or Home Depot and you buy a plant, you follow the directions to a T and the plant dies, you immediately blame yourself. So I started doing my own research to try to troubleshoot the issue. Come to find out, lavender comes from the mountains of the Middle East and India, right? Which also is on the 31st parallel, which, believe it or not, is a straight line right through Panama City. So if you picture a straight line on a chalkboard, right, we saw temperatures reach 109, which most of us can agree is pretty hot. So to see if it was maybe too hot, wanted to see what the temperatures were there. There reached 126. So now we know we can't blame the heat. So I was like, maybe I underwatered it because it seemed like the plants kind of dried up or whatever, and so that was my next concern. So we saw you know, rain get about 60 inches of water in addition to watering myself. And I wanted to see how much rain they got there. Well, there they only got 18 inches of water per year. So it wasn't that we underwatered. In fact, there's a good possibility that we overwatered. Now, if we overwater, you got to ask, what's in the water? So up in the atmosphere, you have nitrogen, which is so tightly bonded that it's unusable. So when you see a storm rolling in and you see the flashes of lightning, what's happening is that lightning striking with so much force that it separates the nitrogen and basically adheres it to the rain, right? So now it's in the rain, it falls to the earth, still unusable up until the plants absorb it, and we either eat the plants from our vegetable gardens or we either eat the animals that eat the plants. But without lightning, there'd be no life on Earth. Now the reason why that's important is because just based on volume, right, simple math, if we get 4 times more rain here than we do there, then that would mean that we're probably getting 4 times more nitrogen. So when they initially said that we would need nitrogen, they were basing it off of the plant in the desert, not basing it off of how much water or rainwater we get here and the nitrogen that's already in the rainwater. So there's a good possibility that we may even have given it too much nitrogen. And then rain also delivers a thing called phosphates. Now if you drink tea, you'll note that tea is pretty unusable, right? It's a dried leaf, and the way to extract the nutrients is by adding water to it and letting the water steep out the nutrients. Typically hot water works best. Same thing happens in the desert, as you can imagine whenever it rains, and the rainy season is between June and September. So it's the same here as it is there. There they call it monsoon season, here we call it hurricane season. But the rain comes in, kind of hits that, pulls the nutrients out of the dead plant material, basically fertilizes the plant, wakes up the plant, and says, hey, it's time to bloom. Once it blooms, you have about 10 days to harvest it, and then you can either distill it right away or you can let it dry for about 2 weeks, and then you take your hands like you're warming up your hands, and you just do that, and the buds fall off. And if you do that way, you'll get just nice buds instead of sticks and twigs and different things. And you take a teaspoon of that, put that in 8 ounces of water, you can make a lavender tea. But it doesn't stop there. Let's say you don't want to drink it as a tea. You can use that lavender water in rice or any water-based recipe that you want. So again, you're limited to your own ambitions or ideas. So the rainy season comes. Like I said, we talked about nitrogen and phosphates. So in the desert, there's not a lot of plants around the plant itself. So for the plant to provide phosphates, phosphates come from dead plant material, the plant has to self-fertilize. Well, here we have an abundance of plants, right? So we have a bunch of phosphates, so we don't really need to supplement phosphates. Again, that's why they say that you shouldn't really need to give lavender a lot of fertilizer. So they were mistaken on that call right there.
Okay.
The differences between our soil and their soil is that theirs is more alkaline, ours is more acidic. So to correct that, you can put down lime or baking soda to kind of raise the alkalinity a little bit. And then by watering less, you have a better chance of actually growing lavender here. In fact, you should only water your lavender if it looks limp, dull, or loses its luster. And only in the morning, never at night, because lavender is really susceptible to a thing called root rot. So aside from rotting roots, think of root rot is to plants what athlete's foot is to people. So if I spray you down with water and you're walking around in a humid climate, it's just you're going to be miserable. So lavender is very much the same way. And if you're watering with a well, okay, typically the well and the sand, it filters out all the nutrients. So all you're doing is wetting your plant. So you're really not giving any nutritional value unless you're using a water-soluble fertilizer. If you're watering your plant with city water, keep in mind that there's chlorine and fluoride and different things in the city water that are harsh to the plant. So again, you want to try to avoid that. And when you want to water it very minimally. You know, you don't want to water it thoroughly, a drench soak, because it's too much. So once we harvest it, we have a still over here. And the way a still works is you have a sieve tray, and if you want, I can walk you over here.
So, I have a question about the water. So do you use rainwater, or would that be the best source?
Rainwater, but the thing is that Mother